talking to you, it sounds like you didn't set out to be a leader, that you kind of created. So you used your creativity and your engineering skills to create a product that then there was a demand for. So what were your initial experiences of kind of being put in that position? And then what have you kind of learned along the way about what kind of... I mean, first of all, do you consider yourself to be a leader?
No. Not at all.
So can you tell us a bit about why you don't consider yourself to be a leader then?
I don't know, I just never thought of it that way before. I mean, I suppose in a lot of ways this has always been about trying to change our relationship with technology, and that was always the mission. And I know I was one of the first people to build a piece of really human technology, and I know the product is widely regarded as one of the first products of its kind. So I guess in some ways I'm aware that
you're going to have to use that word leader. Own it.
In some ways, I guess some people could argue that I'm a leader, but I never really thought of it that way.
But is it because you feel like you're not leading people directly? I don't know how many people work with you, but it's more that you're leading in terms of like presenting a vision for how we could do things differently, which is another form of leadership, perhaps.
Possibly. I mean, I sort of fell into it. Like I said, it was my university project, and it just almost overnight went viral on the internet, and I started to get all these emails, and like the video had all these views, and it was like this snowball. It just sort of took on this life of its own, and it was because of that interest that I thought, well, you know, if these people want this thing, I'll build it and give it to them. Famous last words. Didn't realise how difficult that would be, but yeah, there were times when, and there still are times when that can be quite stressful, because there was always that expectation on me, because I had done this thing which was just an idea and it just went in my degree project, and then suddenly everybody wanted it, and I was like, okay, I'll make it, and then everybody was like, well, where is it? Mm-hmm. And when people want something, like, you can't do anything fast enough. Every time there's a problem, everybody's unhappy. I did, and still sometimes do, get a lot of hate mail from people.
I read that on your news page on your website, because I love that you're so transparent about the whole journey that you've taken to get this made. And when I read that some people were sending, when, you know, they didn't receive it in time, they were sending you really hateful messages, I kind of, there's such an ironic thing to, you're trying to create something to create more human connection, and then you're getting the opposite of that from the people that want your product. So yeah, how did that actually affect you in this journey?
I consider myself quite a thick-skinned person, but when it's your thing and it's something that you have spent so long building and something you really care about, like, it does get to you. Like, you just, and especially when you've put so much of yourself into it, because it's like, it's all pretty much all I did for the last like 8 years. And even at the point when we launched the crowdfunding campaign and we were taking pre-orders, I had just worked on it relentlessly, and then you get emails from some keyboard warrior on the other side of the world just like, you don't care about us, you've just like run off with our money, and you're sitting there thinking, like, I haven't slept more than 4 hours a night for however many weeks, or, you know, I'm sitting in China on my own trying to do this thing to make good on this promise I made to all these people, and then people are emailing you saying, oh, you don't care, and you're like, you've no idea. And I mean, it's why I try to be so transparent about the process, because I was like, look, at the end of the day, I'm one person that had this idea that got a bit out of hand, and I tried to do it, and I've made that promise to you, and I've made that commitment, and now I've taken your money as a pre-order, and I'm like, I'm gonna make you your product and, you know, forgive me while I iron out the bumps, because I haven't done this before. But yeah, no, the hate mail can be grueling.
Yeah. And so thinking a little bit about then maybe being put into this position that may or may not be a leadership position, do you have any sense of where that resistance is coming from in terms of your broader perception of what it means to be a leader?
Probably human nature, right? Isn't it? Like, like people tend to. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know. I just never thought. I felt really put on the spot there when you're like, you're a leader. I was like, wait, what? Me? But I mean, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess in some ways I am.
What are the qualities that you look for in other leaders?
I look for authenticity a lot. I think especially in the business world, we see a lot of success stories, and we hear about a lot of overnight successes, but we very rarely see the struggle or the bad side of it. So I really like it when people are just human and just talk about all sides of being a human being. And some days are good, but not all days are good. And I think, in a leader, I look for authenticity and transparency about that.
And you seem to have both of those qualities.
Thank you.
And perseverance, I think. That not giving up, which is very admirable.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about something that we spend a lot of time looking at, really, which is the dynamics between men and women in life, but in business in particular. So I don't want to preempt it with sort of the kind of things that we've really come up with that we think are important. So what's it been like being a young woman creating a business and that journey?
Okay. So the whole female thing is interesting. So I studied interaction design, which was pretty much computer science. I was in the School of Computer Science, and there were only 2 other girls in my course, so there was a huge gender imbalance on our course, but it was just never a thing at university. Like, it never came up. We never talked about it. We were never like, oh, there's only 3 of us. It just wasn't a talking point. And I was really surprised when I then left university, started a business, and suddenly everybody was like, what's it like to be a woman? I was like, what? So that was something I really wasn't prepared for, and I wish I could say that it hasn't mattered, but there definitely have been times where it has been a thing. There are times when I think I've been taken less seriously than I would have been if I was a man. I think some of that challenge comes from the fact my product can be seen as quite sort of girly or romantic. So sometimes I think the juxtaposition of my product and me being female has been a difficult one. I once had an investor tell me he would invest in my business, but only if I stepped down as CEO and hired a man, because men are better at running a business than women.
I was wondering if you were going to say that, because one of the stats that I think is very ironic is that venture capitalists really favour men when they're looking for money, for backing, and yet the stats would say that actually women entrepreneurs are way more successful, and it's about 30% extra return that the VCs get if only they would invest equally in the woman.
I think some of that is unconscious bias, and I think because there are just fewer female VCs than men, I think people naturally are more comfortable with what they know, like as well research fact is we are most comfortable with other people that are like us. So I think that is inherently where that problem comes from, is that people that think they're making fair decisions are subconsciously favouring people that are more like them, and just because the majority of VCs are white middle class, men. They are backing other white middle class men. Not that makes it all right.
No, yes. But you know, one could say, well, if they were canny investors, they'd.
Well, I agree, and I think we need more canny investors.
Have you got another project up your sleeve? Or you?
Well, I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you. No, I'm working on a few things. We'll see what happens.